My work is really rooted in the science and art of alchemy and magic in a very spiritual, dialed in lens. Everything that I do is spiritual. And so when I work with an entrepreneur, it's very spiritual. When I work with someone that's just coming to me to really connect to their purpose and deepen their joy, it's really a spiritual journey that we're about to embark on. And at the same time, it's very practical because without integration, without execution, these are just great ideas, great concepts, and people can spin chasing their tails forever in that. And spirituality is a really great place to hide.
Hi, love. This is Orion's World, previously known as Stellar Life Podcast. I'm Orion, transformational coach, hypnotherapy speaker, and a woman who turned deep pain into wild possibility. I overcame trauma, poverty, abuse, depression, infertility. Doctors gave me 5% chance of conceiving. But I rewrote my story. I created a new one, and the life they said was impossible. Now I travel the world. I'm married to the love of my life, and I am a mom to an amazing little boy. I'm also the founder of Orion's Method, where you connect within, reclaim your power, and manifest your dreams. Welcome to my world, Orion's World. We go deep, we get real, and we rise. This isn't just a podcast, it's an activation. Let's go. Hi, and welcome to the show. This is your host, Orion. If you want to create more wealth in your life, you want to release money blocks, you want to release any stuckness, this is the episode for you. I am joined with Michelle Jeovanny, a renowned spiritual life coach, mentor, channel, and successful entrepreneur who has devoted her life to helping individuals create wealth on all levels, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, energetically, and financially. With her unique blend of spiritual magic, Michelle empowers her clients to activate and harmonize their true potential in life and business to live a life of freedom, fulfillment, and flow. Her specialty lies in the energetics, ancestral healing, somatic freedom, ceremony, and spiritual power, supporting humans to unlock their potential. And this is exactly what we talked about. Somatic freedom, somatic healing, ancestral healing, rituals, connecting to your guide. She actually shared some phenomenal stories about what happened when she blindly trusted her guides and where it led her to. So I hope you will enjoy this episode as much as I did. And now, without further ado, on to the show. Hey, Michelle, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Orion. I'm excited to jam with you for a bit.
Yeah, let's jam. And before we jam, maybe you can share with the audience, one of your favorite childhood memories.
Oh my gosh, one of my favorite childhood memories. One of the youngest ones that I have is my parents taking me to a concert of Shusha. She was a really big artist back then in the 80s. And it was like my first concert in Dominican Republic. I was on my dad's shoulder and just feeling like unstoppable, like in just like it couldn't get better than that moment.
That's good. You think that's what create your desire to connect to many people and kind of like be out there in the world?
You know, I've always felt ever since I was a little girl that I was here for something big, that I wanted to work with many, many people. And I think as children, we see actors in TV and we kind of like subscribe to it being that like famous and powerful and in TV. But I remember one of the first ways that I connected, because I was always a writer, was literally transcribing what the journalists were saying in the news. At that time, we had a war. And my mom would ask me, "What are you writing so much?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, if I can write the news, then I can be there, then maybe I can stop the war." So I was always a big dreamer and always about like, how can I help? How can I make a difference? So definitely writing and being in TV was how I thought about it as a child.
Yeah. And how are you making a difference today?
I work with people all over the world that come to me in different stages and different phases of their life. Some come with this business or this already thing that they've created, and they're seeking to take it to the next level. Some clients come to me already very successful, but not feeling really fulfilled or aligned. And so people come to me in different phases, and it's really about connecting them to their ancestral power, connecting them to that blueprint, what I call this energetic blueprint, this divine code that spirit gives us all, that we come encoded with. And so when people are feeling like they're not aligned, oftentimes their spiritual attunement is off in what they're creating and how they're presencing, because we're all creatures of habits, patterns. And so it really is about having people step into that ownership of creating their own patterns.
And when you say ancestral power, do you talk about family constellation or something similar like that that you're doing with your clients?
So it definitely consists of family constellation, council work, connecting them to the ancestors of their bloodlines, the ancestors of the land, the ancestors of their cosmos. So there's three worlds that we really operate and weave in between: the natural world, the divine world, and the human world. And a lot of times, in the way that we've been programmed and brought up in this modern day society, we've been caught off from that indigenous power that we have, that connection to the natural world and the cosmo world that our elders, our indigenous elders, really had. But as you know, you're in Israel, like a lot of our roots were cut off in the Western world. We don't really associate with the ancestral power. Oftentimes, and now people are starting to wake up to, is the ancestral healing, that there's something wrong with me, that something's off with me. But what if we can really start to repattern that conversation around the ancestral power that we have through our bloodline, but also through our cosmo family?
So what I know is that through our like with epigenetics, we inherit a lot of stuff that are not ours, and it's in our DNA, and it's from, I think epigenetics is eight generations in the past or something like that. And so I think as a Jewish person, there's a lot of um, running from or survival in our all of us DNA. Maybe that's why Israelis are so innovative, because like, oh my God, life is short, let's do it.
Well, if you think about Israel, right? Like, so you've been to the Caribbean recently, and a lot of Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans have a lot of Jewish bloodline, because those 12 tribes of Israel came to the Caribbean. They came to all these different islands in the Caribbean. And so a lot of us have Jewish bloodline in us. And so if you think about the patterns of people that had to flee their country, had to hide their religion, all of those patterns show up in us when we're getting ready to step into bigger visibility, more success, more money, more deeper friendships, owning our spirituality, our connection with God, and speaking it out loud. A lot of people that have those ancestral patterns have been hiding their voice, have been hiding from the world. And so when we wake up to those patterns inside of us, sometimes we don't even know who we are. We start feeling really lost and like we don't belong. We feel like this wound of where is our place in the world, because our ancestors had to give up everything in order to survive. And so our instinctual is to continue operating under those survival patterns. But this is the work that we've inherited, whether it's ours or not. We've inherited, and it's our job to really do this work so that we free ourselves and we free our medicine, our magic in the world, and we also free our children from having to do that work for us.
Yeah, I love it. I love that then when we heal our lineage, and especially as mothers, when we heal ourselves and we get over shame, blame, anger, all those things, all of a sudden there is a shift in our kids. It's really beautiful.
Without even having to tell them, there's a shift. They just start showing up differently. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and so can one heal their own ancestral lineage on their own, or it always needs facilitation?
I really believe that there are some shadows and traumas and patterns and programming and conditioning. A lot of the traumas and wounds were created in relationship to mom and dad, a teacher, 0 to 9 years old, a grandparent, a grandfather. It was always created in relationship. And so the reason why there's such a big buzz with somatic work, with therapy now more than ever, is because we're starting to wake up to this realization that in order to heal those traumas, in order to really integrate those traumas, we have to do it with someone. It has to be witnessed in a very safe container. And if you think about it, safety can take years to cultivate. It can also be done by someone that has devoted their life to being a space holder of safety and trust. And so you find that times that someone working with a therapist can take years, decades to touch that layer of that trauma. And sometimes when they go into, and I've seen it in my case at my retreats at Sacred Alchemy, sometimes they go into a space and work 20, 30 years of trauma in 5 days, which is miraculous. But I really believe that it gets to be done in relationship with someone that is not your spouse, not your children, not your best friend. It has to be someone that is an expert and that can ask the right questions to really invoke that safety on a body level to be able to excavate that trauma.
Right, and is not personally involved or emotionally involved with who you are. Yes. Because we are also emotionally involved with ourselves. So I can see what you're saying, and I mean, like, I studied a lot with lots of teachers, and it's almost like peeling the layers of an onion. I just thought, like, oh, I'm done with this, but then there is another layer. Do we ever heal, or is it like a life journey?
I step left when it comes to the word healing because I think it's starting to get that negative connotation of.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's like, do we ever get to fulfill our true potential? Or there will be like blocks along the way all our lives?
We absolutely do. I think it's a matter of really doing the tending to the inner temple, the tending to the outer temple, the tending to ourselves as this sacred garden, and really allowing yourself to shed the pieces of yourself that thinks that there's something to be healed, that there's something broken, that there's something off. And listen, we're all humans. We have stuff to figure out, right? But if we're always in that conversation of there's something I need to heal, there's something I need to work on, there's something I need to do, there's something, you're always going to find something. And so I am a commitment to growth, and that commitment in itself will always show and reveal to me the places I get to go into. But I look at that as a game. I look at that as a heroic adventure of really realizing my full potential.
Mm. You know, now that I'm talking to you, what I'm sensing is that this is not our first time here together. Like, I really sense like I know you from somewhere on a soul level. It's very interesting. It just came to mind, so I shared it. Very, very interesting. So what was your path like? How did you discover those healing modalities that you help people with?
My work is really rooted in the science and art of alchemy and magic in a very spiritual, dialed in lens. Everything that I do is spiritual. And so when I work with an entrepreneur, it's very spiritual. When I work with someone that's just coming to me to really connect to their purpose and deepen their joy, it's really a spiritual journey that we're about to embark on. And at the same time, it's very practical because without integration, without execution, these are just great ideas, great concepts, and people can spin chasing their tails forever in that. And spirituality is a really great place to hide. But for me, it started at a really young age. I had a connection to the spirit world where I can see and hear, and I was being trained, and I still feel like I'm being trained for something that I don't understand quite fully. But they would come to me, these spirit guides, and they would just have conversations. And from the moment that I learned how to write, I just started writing. They would tell me these stories that as a child, I really thought they were make believes. I kid you not. It was just a few years ago that I was like, oh, these are all real stories. But they would make me write them, and I would write them. And things would happen in my home that I thought the house was enchanted slash haunted. My mom and moved us around a lot. And she dated a man that was very abusive physically, emotionally, spiritually. He was very violent. It was very extreme. He burned our house down twice. He beat the crap out of her repeatedly, multiple times a week. And so we moved around a lot. I changed schools a lot. But as a child, I never really connected that the house was part of my gifts, that I had an archetype, that I had a connection to the home, that I had a connection to the ocean, to the waters. I just thought that it was just happening random. And so it wasn't when my stepfather was, being really violent, that lasted for 5 years. I shut off my gifts unbeknownst to me. I just started doing smoking a lot of weed and just drinking a lot, but that shut off my gifts. And so it wasn't until later on in college that I realized the connection of like, oh, I stopped smoking for a whole year, that I realized, oh, my gifts are coming online, but I didn't know what to do with them. And I was very overwhelmed by them. And so it wasn't until my Saturn return where I really made a conscious decision and a vow to God to like, okay, use me. I'm here to serve. I want to live my purpose. Use me. And it was through a deep grief portal. You know how Saturn returns go? They crumble everything, your whole entire timeline shatters. But it was a time of truth. It was when I became a truth seeker and I just started to learn a lot of the mystical, again, through the guidance of spirit and my guides, learning a lot of the mystical teachings of each religion. So, mystical Kabbalah, there was so many, the mysticism of Sufism and Islam and Christianity. And so I just started learning a lot of the mystical and mysticism parts of the religion that were under occult law that you really couldn't find everywhere, and it was being really guided in a way that didn't make sense to me.
Because I know
So
I know that a lot of ancient books, even like medicine, inventions, religion, there's so many books with so much knowledge that were actually, somebody got rid of them or they're only in the hand of specific groups.
yeah,
So how do you connect to that knowledge? Do you get downloads or do you get guidance to go to a certain place?
I was getting downloads and guidance to go to specific places, specific like little mom and pop shop libraries that were very old. So I went to Mexico to different libraries. I have this funny story that's so wild. I was told by my guides to go to this shaman in Oaxaca, and I was given the street address, but not the name, the number, or anything. I was like, how am I supposed to find this? And they were like, go. And it was really like a test of faith. And that's been like these last 20 years. And so I went, and when I found this like shaman's door, the shop was closed. And so I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like I came from New York. Like I don't even know where the freak I am. And then I'm walking.
How old were you?
So I was at that time, I was in my late 20s, probably like 29. And one of my guides shows up in front of me and stunts me. And they were like, turn back. And I turned back around and the door was wide open. And the shaman comes out and he's like, yeah, they alerted me you were here. And I was like, what? So a lot of things like that just kept happening.
Tell me one more story. It's so interesting.
Oh my gosh. So connected to that story, I'm speaking to him. And I was always drawing this like heart with a circle around it. Always. I was always drawing that symbol. And he comes to me, he's like, they told me to give you this book. Let me just work on your field. And I'm like, okay. And at that time, I've never heard about ayahuasca. And so my guides say, ask him about ayahuasca. And I said, have you ever heard of ayahuasca? And he's like, yeah, they told me you would ask about that. I don't serve it anymore, but I have a feeling you're gonna connect with someone back home that's gonna be able to serve you. And I was like, okay. And then he gives me the book. He says, they told me to give you this book. I don't know why they sent you here to get it, because you could have got it online because it's free online. And I was like, okay. And I grabbed the book, and the picture on the book is the thing that I was drawing for years.
Wow, that is so like amazing. So you said that you had entities talking to you, but when you described it, from my perspective, it sounded more like ghosts. When did correct me if I'm wrong, or when did you connect to like your true guides, and how can one call upon their guides?
Yeah, thank you. So I never refer to them as entities because entities is very different.
What's the difference?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. So when you think of guides, when you think of ancestors, there are the beings that are benevolent that really operate in. So if you think of yourself, right? Everything is energy, everything is energy. All of your cells are energy in motion. They're all swirling, they're all in service to who you are, to holding this body vessel together and having this spirit called Orion animate this vessel, your temple. And when you think of worlds within worlds, the way that I explain it is like, think of your knee right now. There's like so many little cells in that knee. So there's worlds within worlds of cells. And over Orion, there's a overarching soul. And over that soul, there's another umbrella soul. And so when you really think about as above, so below, there are all of these layers and overarching souls. And so when you think of guides, I really refer to them as like they're connected to your higher soul, but they're part of your council. Every single human being has a spirit team, a spirit council that is composed of these higher intelligent beings that are in service to you, that are devoted to your evolution and your growth and your mastery. Because what we're here to do in the School of Earth is to really grow and evolve and deepen our relationship with ourself, with Creator, with Mother Earth, with all others. And in that deepening of the relationship, you arrive at divine intimacy, divine union with all. And that's what we're all here on this journey. But in distinguishing that with entities, so entities are, when you think of every thought materializes into form, there's so many thoughts that we are unconscious about. And those unconscious thoughts, when are repeated, can create a tulsa, which is the Greek word. But an entity is this energy form that has been created by a lot of thought patterning, and it is animated, and it can be an entity of fear, jealousy, it can be an entity of lust, it can be an entity. And so these entities can commune within the psyche of the human. And a lot of times there are entities that attach themselves to humans so that they can actually complete a thought spiral, an emotion spiral that is incomplete or stuck within that human vessel.
So how do we know if we have something attached to us, and how do we protect ourselves from? I like the way my hand moved, like protect yourself from all those entities, so they're not in our field.
Yeah, this is a great question. So the first thing is like really bringing awareness that where you're moving from is what you attract. And so a lot of times, a lot of people in the new age world will be like, I need to protect myself, sage me, and they do all these things, and they're literally attracting the very thing that they're protecting themselves because they're moving from fear. And so the best way that you can feel like clear your field is through prayer and devotion, really with God first and foremost. And when you trust God and when you really surrender your faith into God,
When we are in fear, we are attracting the thing that we are afraid of the most. Like if we are in fear from getting hurt or evil eye or that, we are attracting more.
you're attracting it. Absolutely. And so the best way to really protect ourselves is through prayer and devotion, like really deepening a relationship of trust and faith with Great Spirit, with God, with all of life, you know, and doing the inner work to release those parts of us that even subscribes to something being malevolent towards us.
Yeah. What if you're, so you said it's basically what you're saying is stay in high vibration, but what happens when there is,
No, staying in truth vibration, because a lot of people confuse the high vibration with love and light. Truth vibration is just being like real with where you're at.
yeah, I like that. So tell me about how you take all those spiritual ideas that are so out there and so right brain, and you bring it into working with successful entrepreneurs and helping them with their businesses.
Most people struggle with several things: loving themselves and accepting themselves fully. But most people struggle with relationship, time, and money. And those three things represent a lot of different pieces of self growth, self devotion, spirituality, leadership. You know, when people come to me and I really see where they want to go, where they would desire to be, we start working on where they are right now. Where is all the resistance trapping all the energy that wants to flow, to move as spirit wants and spirit desires to create through them? And so a lot of my work is identifying the pieces that are stuck, the pieces that are stagnant, the pieces that are locked in resistance, the pieces that are locked into a vibration, a frequency that doesn't match what they desire. And so we introduce a lot of these spiritual concepts, but it's very practical because we work with people in their level of understanding, in their mindset. We're having people really identify within themselves through a lot of questioning, a lot of integration, a lot of shadow work. What is in the way of their deepest fulfillment?
Can you share one exercise that someone is listening can do to maybe look at that or solve some of that in their lives?
This is not something they're going to solve just by one exercise. I just want to presence that. But one of the things that they can really do is start asking themselves, where are they at in their life? Where do they desire to be? What do they believe in about themselves? And what do they believe in about God? Do they know God? Do they have a relationship with spirit? Do they have a relationship with their ancestors, their bloodlines? Do they have a relationship with the land where they live in? Do they have a relationship with everything that they actually have, their home, their spouses, their children? And how would they rate all of that? And what is missing for them to actually create wealth on all levels?
How do you connect your guides to that part, to the part that leads you your and connect your intuition from the inside?
Again, a lot of prayer, deepening relationship through rituals and practices with yourself. The reason why we do rituals, and you're from Israel, there's so many rituals that are so rich over there. The reason why we do rituals is to really practice an active relationship with ourselves, to be in an active, engaged participation in the ritual of who we are becoming and how we're moving and presencing life. And so this is an opportunity to deepen your relationship with self, with your guides, with God, by taking time and space, whether it's through journaling, whether it's through really allowing yourself 10 minutes a day to really sit with yourself without the phone, without scrolling, without music. And sometimes moms will come to me and say, how do you find the time? But if you can't find 5 minutes for yourself, then you're literally parenting through martyrdom, because you're self-sacrificing yourself to mother this child who's learning by what you're doing and how you're being, not by what you tell them to do. So time and space, effort, whether it's journaling, whether it's lighting a candle, whether it's saying a prayer, but really entering this relationship with spirit and with your guides, like, okay, I'm here. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to devote myself. I'm ready to serve at a greater capacity. Use all of me and let's create a code, a symbol, a sign that when I see that, you are telling me I'm on the right path. And that'll start to open up your receivership so you can actually look and be present to the signs that they're trying to communicate with you all day, all night.
I love that. That's really, yeah. I like that. Asking for a sign. I feel like in the last, I don't know, since I became a mom, actually my spiritual gifts are growing, and I see more into the unseen. And just a few days ago, I had a hypnosis session with a gentleman, actually about abundance, and in the middle of the session, it's almost like I went into a different dimension and I saw his soul. And there was so much light and so much power to that I actually freaked out a little bit in my heart because it was so powerful and beautiful. And I know that at that moment there was a rewiring in his brain because, yeah, I can do the hypnosis and the induction and everything that I learned, but I think my gift is to be a channel for divine light because I'm just a person. I cannot know everything. I can read a lot of books, but I can never read all the books or take all the trainings. But when I am a channel to connect the divine light, like amazing things are happening. And at the end of the session, he was different. He was so focused. His voice, his tone of voice was lower. He looked more joyful. And then he told me, he was like, you look different. You look illuminated. I was like, oh yeah, maybe because I went there with him, I got some of that beautiful light, but it was so nice to see him in his, like, not just the person that is trying to communicate who he is to me, but actually is looking, glimpsing into his power and his soul. It was such a gift, but things like that happen, but it's not happening with me asking for it or controlling it. Is there a level where you could just call upon it?
You can always call upon it, and honestly, they're always there. Spirit is always seeking to create with us, and once we open up through asking, now they have, your free will to co-create with. But we're all channels. Every single person that's listening, every person that is here, we're all channels of the divine. And sometimes the computer processor will think that it is the channel. And at times we need to really move through a lot of devotion and prayer and release because we can get caught up with the things we need to do, our agendas, all the things that we have on our planner. We're all humans, we get caught up with that. But the computer process is nothing compared to the actual soul and the spirit. And so when we open up and we say, okay, spirit, okay, God, I'm ready. Use me. Use my words. Send me the people. I'm ready to serve. Use every part of me. Now we've opened up a wide door for spirit to come and create with us actively.
How do you feel like spirit helped you with your abundance and with your moving through blocks or limiting beliefs?
Yeah. Let's talk about wealth. I feel like money is something that a lot of people want more of, and when they have more of, they want more of, and then when they have more, it's like never enough, this like endless spiral. um I also feel that people have a lot of things that they haven't fully somatically received into their being. So you buy things and you get things, especially here on this side of the world. The Amazon is like delivering every day to people things, and at times we don't realize is that wealth is not just the money in the bank. It's a frequency, it's a feeling. And sometimes we can get so attached to it being a specific number. But oftentimes what I notice with, especially with the very successful people that I mentor, is that it's not about the number at all. It's the mindset, the faith, and the somatic body that they're building to be able to hold it, multiply it, and sustain it. And currency, wealth is alive. Money wants to work with you. When I've done family constellations with money and wealth being an actual person in the constellation, what they notice is that money feels something, and money feels outcasted. And oftentimes there were some ancestors down the generations that made a vow with poverty to protect their family, especially in the Jewish bloodlines. That was seen a lot. Um, but what I noticed is that the best way to override that scarcity is simply an illusion. And so we create beyond the illusion into the truth frequency of what wealth really is for that person. And once we're able to encode that from their own wisdom and their own body, we now start to develop the body to actually hold it and call it in without having to over hustle, without having to overgive. But there is effort that is required in order to build that mindset and that faith body of being able to actually earn it. A lot of people are subscribing to these new age BS that's like, oh, just think it and it comes. You do have to show up, because there is something to be said that we as humans, we want to be able to say we earned this, we worked for this. And so it is a byproduct of the effort that we put in, the faith, the somatic body, and also the spiritual.
Yeah. And what, maybe you can share a success story of someone that eradicates something in their, I don't know, bloodline or beliefs, and what was the shift for them?
Yeah, I can share an example. So one of the times where we used wealth, what we noticed is that the great grandmother was very jaded and closed off. She was very bitter. The great grandfather had a gambling issue. What I love about family constellation is that it's one of the only ancestral healing modalities and also personal development modalities that brings the unconscious to the conscious. So you're fully aware in 3D what is showing up. And because the great grandfather had this gambling issue, lots of debt. She was ashamed. That shame blocks the money to flow, because of money, the mother archetype is very powerful. We as matriarchs hold the, what my mentor says, the alpha femme energy, right? Like the matriarch is the one that holds the long-term vision. She also holds the energy, the frequency of the home. And so money attunes to that. How open is everyone in the home to receiving pleasure, to receiving support, to receiving, period? And how is the person also in the allowing? Because currency, money, wealth wants to flow. It requires circulation in order to grow. And so it's important for the person to not be able to grasp at what they have, to have this allowing of like, what am I working on to call this in? What am I actually also supporting and outflowing? What are the bills that I'm blessing? What are the payments that I'm blessing, with the same level of excitement and joy and gratitude for what I am receiving?
Do you want to share a little bit about your retreat and what you do there?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. So we have two retreats. Like I said, my work is very about alchemy and magic. One is called Sacred Alchemy, and it's a 4-day initiation into the embodied alchemist. And this one is really about awakening wealth and magic. It's about awakening purpose and power and presence and prosperity. There's 4 pillars. We move through a very ceremonial ancestral process. And so the 4-day journey is, it's like a spiritual training slash recalibration. And you really know God after the end of those 4 days. Like you really know Creator in a deep, intimate way.
So you do ceremonial, but you don't do psychedelics.
So we do. We actually have a psychedelic psilocybin cacao journey in it.
Sounds like fun.
It's amazing. It's so deep and so powerful. And then Sacred Magic is a 7-day initiation into the awakening embodied, the embodied magician. And this is about trading the warrior for the magician. I feel like the Western world, and I really feel like everywhere in the world, it's like warrior, hustle, let's go into the battle. We have to do this. We have to fight. We have to fight. And because we've been really habituated in that fight, flight, or functional freeze after we're burned out from the fight, it's about moving into the archetype of the magician, the one that moves with spirit, the one that walks with God, the one that dances with God. It's the Sufi dance twirl. It's the Hebrews when they pray and they fast for days, and it's just this beautiful prayer and dance and devotion with your magician.
You said you do also somatic exercises. What type of somatic work do you do?
Yeah, so a lot of my retreat, a lot of the work that we do is somatic. So there's a lot of morning rituals. Some of the practices that we do come from the Strozzi Institute. That's where my mentor is from. He's one of the founding fathers of the somatic world here in the Western world. And he just really taught a lot of practices, and they became really popular in during the pandemic because everybody was stuck in their homes. And so we do a lot of processes and rituals to build the somatic body through movement and through different processes that connect the breath to sound to movement.
What are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life?
Ah, that's beautiful, Ryan. Woo! Prayer. Move as a prayer. Every thought is a prayer. Your life is a prayer. May it be a great offering. May you cultivate yourself as good food and as a great offering for yourself, for everyone around you, and your entire ecosystem and the world. So, prayer, prayer, prayer. The second one is rituals. Create rituals of devotion, create rituals of pleasure. If you're moving through grief, create rituals of grief. Like every part of you is moving through practices and through rituals. So number 2 is rituals. Everything that you do, every single thing you think and do is a habit. It's a practice. And so be in conscious ownership and conscious co-creation of creating rituals for yourself, rituals of devotion, rituals of work, rituals of tuning off of work, rituals of pleasure, rituals of grief if you're moving through a really sticky time. But be in a conscious ownership and co-creation of creating rituals that are having you step into full ownership of who you are becoming and how you're presencing your life. And number 3, the last one would be dream. Really dream, dream, dream. Dream so big. Oftentimes we settle for what we think we can get, for what we think we can create. But our minds and hearts are so vast. They're so infinite. And we have the ability to create what we think we can accomplish in 10 years in 5, in 3. And so allow yourself to really dream big. And one of the things that I teach is that in the dream space, in the field of your imagination, is where God resides. And every fear or everything that you have faith in arises from your imagination. And so what are you using the power of your imagination towards? What are you creating? What are you dreaming alive? What really excites you? If you could have anything in the world, write it down and allow yourself, your body, your energy, your faith, your mind, your beliefs to reorganize itself around that.
So, where can people find you, connect with you, attend a retreat, learn more about you?
Yeah, the best way to find me is on the platforms Instagram and Facebook, Michelle Jeovanny. And also my website, michellegiovanni.com. For those that are your listeners and want a freebie that I've created for business alchemists, entrepreneurs, small business owners, I've designed this like spirit meets AI template to support people in really navigating these times and moving with a lot of faith and spiritual authority over their creation. So these are ways to really optimize the AI world in service to what spirit wants to create through you. So if they message me on Instagram, I'll definitely send them their way.
I love it. Thank you so much, Michelle. It was amazing. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much, Orion. I'm so grateful to have met you and have this time together. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing in this world.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Remember to live your life as a prayer. Create rituals for yourself and dream big, 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 bigger than you think, and have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.